Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Friday with Friends. Today, I'm here with fellow creator Alex Ha, and he went to Ivy. And honestly, his work experience is something that I'm dying to know a lot more about because he done VC, like PE, consulting, and all those areas I've actually never done, but I've been so interested in. And I'm sure a lot of you are as well. Let's start with the very first question I ask everybody. Can you first share a bit about your upbringing, high school experience, and your career interests at the time?
I was born and raised in Hong Kong until I came to Canada when I was 16, so in grade 10 summer. So like the biggest thing that keeps me up at night, it's about like how to survive high school, like socially and academically. So I say like my high school experience has always been just trying to get through the day, trying to make friends, like try to get good grades. And I didn't really spend a lot of time thinking about like, oh, what am I interested in? But I think at some point in like grade 11, grade 12, like you kind of have to think about it because, okay, Nick, now you're going to graduate. What are you going to do? Um, I went to, I think there are two things I did. So the first one is like, I really sat down with myself and I was like, okay, like, where do I spend time on? Like after school, like, what do I like to do? Um, and it gets so stereotypical, but I really like puzzles, like math competitions, and like watching like YouTube videos about businesses. Um, so I kind of like had some hypothesis, like I'm really interested in math and business. And then the second thing I did was going to university fair. I think it's around October, November, and grade 11 and 12. Like you would go downtown and this like huge exhibition thing, and that was before COVID. And I was speaking to all these universities, like, oh, okay, like they are all very different. And I didn't have a lot of criteria thinking like, okay, lifestyle, tuitions, reputation, prestige, jobs. I didn't think of that. I just think like these people in business are just like so cool. Like I was like, oh, I want to join them. I got this little booklet. It was like Ivy AEO 2019 or 2018 or something. I just like put it on my desk and I was like, okay, one day I'm gonna get it. And one day I'm gonna get it. And the rest is history.
When you moved from Hong Kong to Canada, could you talk a little bit about like the academic transition? Like you talked a lot about like socially fitting in and like making friends, but is it like a lot more vigorous in Hong Kong compared to Canada?
Yeah, I say so. Like the education level is just very hard in Hong Kong. Like I think I have school from like 3 to 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You have to do tutorials afterwards because we're all preparing for like a public open exam called DSE. I think the transition itself, well, it's not that difficult, like, especially in math. Like I try to like optimize for like math courses so I don't give myself such a hard time. But I think English was something I really struggle. Um, I had to study vocabularies or like take lessons outside of classes, and that was where I spent a lot of my time on.
Now, what led you to do your HBA at Ivy? You kind of touched on like going to the career fair, but Ivy is very competitive to get into, and it's not really something that you just think, maybe I'll. Most people like they know, or the sub app is also very long. There's like so many essays. So, yeah, what led you to apply and to do that? And why did you choose economics instead of BMOS for your 2+2 as part of the IVAEO?
I think for me for Ivy, I think generally like Ivy made a really great impression on me when I first went to university fair, and I also thought that moving out of home or Markham, which is where I live, it's something I really wanted to do. I wanted to live with myself or live with roommates. Um, at literally in the middle of nowhere in London for like 4 years, that would be sort of the best time of my life, which is absolutely true. Um, and why did I choose economics instead of BMOS? I think, like, fun fact, like, when I first got into Western, I wasn't in economics. I was in actuarial science. And you were like, what the hell is actuarial science? So basically, it's like insurance math. So, like, it sets up, it sets you up for like a path to work in insurance firms, like Intact, Manulife, on like the most like technical stuff, like pricing, underwriting policies, and things like that. I didn't know these all back then, so I just like thought like, okay, I want to do like business and math, right? So I'm gonna do that. So after one semester, I kind of dropped out from material science and I just did economics, and that turned out to be the best thing that have happened because economics was a lot about studying like incentives, behaviors, it's like psychology and business-ish, and it's very theory based because like nothing that I did, none of the problems that I did there, it's like very applicable to reality. But I think the way it teaches you how to think, how to approach supply and demand, basic macro theories, and it really complements with like Ivy, which is like very practical, very case based. And that turned out to be really great for me to think about businesses and which it's very applicable to in consulting, banking, PE, and whatsoever you do.
Yeah, for sure. I've always loved the economic courses, and I really liked what you said there. It's kind of like the psychology of businesses. And yes, it can get very like theory, but there's also graphs and it can get very technical very, very quickly. But I think like I really like the fact that you did economics and it paired so well with Ivy because you're doing those cases, but thinking like macro about economics and like why people do things, why businesses thrive, why they may make decisions. I remember I took an elective called game theory, which is, that's all businesses do. And it's very interesting. So all of you listening, like go take some econ electives. Like it is fun. And maybe you'll consider a 2+2 in econ, and deviate from the BMOS typical.
Did you do any economic course like back to back?
Yeah, there was micro, macro, game theory. There, I think I did a few more. I actually really enjoyed it. Like, I think if I wasn't in business, I would probably do economics. It can get very hard though. Like, if like I'm sure you're there were like what other courses were there in your second year of like econ? Like, did it get intense?
Yeah, it does. Like, I think there were a lot of topics about like trades, like between countries, about tariffs and quotas. There are stuff like econometrics, which you have to identify like causation and correlations when you just get a bunch of data sets. Like I think it gets pretty interesting. But I am a nerd, so it depends on the person sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about econom. Is it econometrics? Is that how you
Yeah,
say it?
econometrics.
I think that's something I would struggle in. Like I'm not like the whole like data sets and math. I don't know. I'm more the like I can think about the monetary, the fiscal policy, the trade and stuff like that. But like
Yeah,
it can get like econ can really become math very
yeah.
quickly.
I think I guess a quick tips for all of you guys interested in econ. I think at the very beginning you get all these like micro macro courses, but the higher you go in your third and fourth year, the types of your classes become more polarized. And what I meant by that is like, it's either gonna be very qualitative and essay based, or it gets very quantitative, which could involve coding, which could involve like a lot of like math and derivatives. So just a heads up.
That makes so much sense. And okay, we're kind of like deviating from all the questions, but last question on econ because I'm very interested. If you were to continue like econ, would you go more of the qual or like quant route?
I I like the quant stuff a little bit more, but I think you need both. That's my short answer.
Moving on to question number three. Can you share about your entire internship journey so far in early career? Because I know you are a recent grad.
I like the way you frame the question like journey, because it really was a journey. Like in my first year, I didn't have any legitimate internships. I think I was keen enough to like go to these business clubs, like business meetings, but like I wasn't keen enough to be part of that circle. Um, I was curious enough to like look up onto like all these like panels, like these career paths, like first year, if you're interested in finance, you should do a search fund, a wealth management firm, or whatsoever. Didn't do any of that. I ended up staying in London at Western doing like a lab assistant role for like a behavioral economics research. It's like a stock simulation. It's pretty fun. And in meantime, like because it was part-time, outside of that, I would just be taking this course called on Wall Street Prep. And I was like, okay, I didn't get an internship, but I can make up my summer by just looking into financial models, studying them. And in second year, that was the year when I started to really like pour my heart, put all my effort into recruiting finance, And like everybody else, I recruited for search fund. So what search fund means for context is like basically entrepreneurship through acquisition. So there are people with like 3, 4, 5, 6 years of experience will like leave the firm. They wanted to become an entrepreneur, but they don't want to start from scratch. So they partner up with like a friend and like raise money from an investor, raise money from banks, and like buy this company, run it themselves. And basically my role there was to help them look into targets, like run some basic financial models. And that was basically how most people get their finance experience in the early years of undergrad. In third year, that is when COVID hit, in my second semester of second year. Um, so in COVID, like everybody else, like we were all grinding. We were all just doing mock interviews, recruiting for banking, and the banking timeline was very accelerated. It was before the end of second year summer. Just like June, July, we were all just prepping, hopping on calls, and doing first round interviews, applying to like programs and things like that. And that was the time like I was like going through these interviews. Was I got really discouraged at one point because I think it was like September, and I remember like after orientation week, like we all had a great time, and I just like look up to my like Notion job tracker, and I was like, yo, like 80% of the firms are done recruiting. I'm like still recruiting. Like, what am I gonna do with my life? Um, and I think it was that time like the posting from Firepower came out for like a PE role. Um, so I apply and it gave me a case study. This is the first firm that gave me a case study because I think it's more common in buy side than investment banking. And I kind of just did it. Went back to Wall Street Prep. Like if it wasn't for that, I couldn't do it in like one day. It was like a 24-hour case study. Did a bill and LBO and write a memo and send it back. Basically did that, got a second round, and then a third round with partner and got a job. And brief summary of my overall experience at Firepower, which just like it was low middle market P, nothing super fancy. We were looking at like the niches of the businesses. So like one was like agriculture manufacturing. So like one of them does like ventilation installation for like glass houses. Another one could be like selling gardening equipments to on like Canadian tires. And the second deal we did was telecom service providers. So like Bell, Rogers, Telus would like hire us as contractors to like maintain their like telecom towers in the middle of nowhere. And these were like lucrative businesses, like no one talks about, but they make so much money. So it was fun. And after that, fourth year summer, end of third year summer, I was just thinking like I wanted to do like I think I had my fair share of finance. I am pretty interested in technology. I wanted to do something like VC, like finance and technology. Um, did a lot of research, spoke to a lot of people. I think the cold emailing from the banking recruiting era really gave me an upper hand on this one because I was just like relentlessly like emailing every single one on LinkedIn. And yeah, I think like both luck and both effort, I landed a job at GFC, which is Global Founders Capital. We were doing a lot of C to Series A investing, so like early stage startups, you may call it. And it was probably one of the best summers I've ever had. Learned so much, met so much people. I think one thing I want to point out usually it's like in VC you meet so many different people, and by just hearing their story, it gives you a sense of like, oh, is that person I want to become, or is that person I don't want to become? And then you have that sample size that would help you make your career decisions. So, yeah, I wrap up there. It's like super long, but hope that was helpful.
I like what you said about lucrative businesses. Like no one, everyone talks about the big banks, everyone talks about big tech, but it's kind of like when there's a gold rush, you should sell shovels. And it's like there are a whole bunch of like, yeah, these like cell towers and they do need to be maintained. But like no one thinks about that, but they'll think of like big telecom. Like what do you think of like investing in Bell? What do you think of investing in Rogers? And like I think that's like the beauty of mid-market or lower mid-market. It can be super lucrative and overlooked. And there's so much opportunity there. So I think sometimes like students always go for the big banks and stuff. And even in my second year, like I was like, oh, like I just want to work at a big bank. But like if you know like the type of like money these people make in like LMM, like you trust me, like it's definitely a place that you can explore. Question number 4. So right now you are in consulting, correct? In your early career?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So why PE to VC back to PE via consulting?
I think there are two prefaces I want to make here. So the first one is like there is a significant difference between choosing an internship and choosing a full-time job. And the second one, which is like I think market condition also plays a huge role when you're deciding on your career because everyone has different like preferences for risk or preferences for like jobs they want to be. But yeah, start us off like PE to VC. I think it was like pretty spontaneous. Like after PE, I was like, okay, like I could go back to my old route. Like I'm gonna recruit for high finance. I'm trying to like make my way. Or like I wanted to explore something else. Like I think I had this summer which like I think having like a fourth year summer, it's like kind of like a hack because like it really gives you a big capacity to recruit for a new area that you're not familiar with, and it also gave you upper edge because you're recruiting against third years. Um, but yeah, like I wanted to recruit for VC because it was an area that I'm really interested in. I really just love like watching YouTube videos or like podcasts about like Kathy Wood, like technology investing, future of like XYZ, sustainability, self-driving AI, fintech, and things like that. And VC was a job that let me do this full time. So I yeah, I dipped my head into it and did my summer in VC. And I like it so much. Like after my internship, I came back to school. Like I started VC club because no one was doing that. So that's P to VC, and VC to consulting was actually a tough one. So a bit of backstory here was like in my fourth year summer, I was working in GFC, and my partner Alex, which is like a huge mentor of mine, shout out to Alex, and he basically left the firm to start his own seed fund called Northside Ventures. So basically, he started his own company, and there's no longer a partner in JFC managing the Canadian portfolio. And and after that, I was just thinking like I could recruit for another finance job, I could recruit for another VC job, or I could recruit for like something else. And I think the finance picture was kind of out of the way because I think I'm more adjacent to technology than adjacent to finance, and that's something I really want to be part of. And and between VC and consulting was really tough. Was actually so tough. I just talking to like tens of people, thinking about what I should do. That was September of fifth year, and and I think like a huge theme that I was getting from people who were in their 3, 4, 5 years into their career was just giving me this pattern of advice, which is like you want to optimize, you want to find something to optimize, and you need to figure that out what that is. And I feel like I wanted to optimize for learning, not for like a a career in VC, if that makes sense. Like I want to optimize my learning. I'm a very curious person. You can tell from my resume, and I wanted to explore more things. I had a background in case competition. I did case competition throughout my uni undergrad, and that really gave me an edge in recruiting for consulting. And yeah, so every kind of part of the puzzle kind of like comes in together, like that made me pursue consulting at the end of the day.
Yeah, thanks. I've heard that your 2 years in banking, your 2 years of consulting is kind of like an MBA, and it's about learning so that let's say you do want to go to VC in the future. It's like you have that baseline of like, well, I learned as much as I could my first years out of university, and that's why a lot of people, like students, ambitious students that may like be interested in so many things, like go into these careers because they the exits are real, and the learning is very rich, and you get to learn from like really really smart people like partners or managers that can really guide you and mentor you there, so that definitely makes sense. Now question number 5, I didn't know that PwC's consulting arm was called Strategy and, is that how you say it, Strategy and?
Yeah, strategy and yeah.
Okay, what other consulting services does Strategy and provide? Like is it as wide of a breadth as Deloitte's consulting service? And is it an international model?
Yeah, so I say we have an international brand, an international presence, but our operations are more regionally ran. Um, in terms of in terms of what services does strategy and provide, I think globally, we do deals and we do strategy. But in Canada, we only focus on strategy as of right now. And there's a lot of collaboration with the broader PwC firm. So there are a lot of times clients will come to us be like, I want to figure this like growth problem, this like restructuring problem, this expansion problem, this cost cutting problem. And we would come and do the work and they would need help with implementing it. That's where we pull in all our resources from the broader PwC firm to do this. So it's very collaborative and it's good.
Thank you. And is strategy and like PwC is all over Canada? Is strategy and as like all over Canada as well, or is it in certain cities?
I think it's very new. I think the practice was less than 10 years old. And currently we have less than 100 people for entire strategy and in Canada. And most of us are in Toronto, but there are also people in Calgary, Vancouver, and Montreal.
Question number 6, which I really want to know, what were your VC and consulting interviews like? How are they different and possibly the same?
Yeah, I started the same. Like I think have you heard of the term like airport test?
No.
Airport test is basically like when you're interviewing candidates, you want to see like if they're compatible and you can vibe with them, you would take an airport. You go to like you spend like 12 hours at the airport with them. Like, are you that type of person? So I think a large part of it is also that's actually like checking the vibe. Like it's like, are you teachable? Are you coachable? Are you someone who's easy to work with? Are you a fast learner? I think that's like one of the most important thing, and it's very standardized across all the jobs you apply. But I say things that are different. It's like I think in consulting they are really looking for people who can think critically, think creatively, and most importantly, like, it's like being really good at articulating things. So that's like one thing that really stood out to me. Because you do all these case interviews, and the most important part is actually about like walking them through what you're thinking. Because you can have really great ideas, and if you're bad at articulating them, then it's not gonna pass through. But in VC, I'm not saying that's not important, but I say like VC, they really look for people um, who are opinionated, who have like an investor mindset. That was something that was very transferable from PE, which is like you would look at all these deals and be like, this is something I'm interested in, and here's why. This is the deals that we should pass, and here's why. And if you see, it's kind of like the same thing. It's like you look at all these deals, marketplace for water bottles, and like you need to come up with a reason why. Oh, I don't think we should spend time on this, or like I think we should spend more time in this. Or after like a founder meeting, and you before your partner asks, you would just come up to the partner and be like, oh, like that was interesting. Like I think XYZ are the reasons why we should invest. But on the caveat, like I think we should verify like XYZ before we like actually go about and like, invest in them. So being opinionated, having a strong view, it's also important in VC.
And did you have to do like any modeling like cases for VC?
I have to look at models, but I didn't have to build any models because I think it varies on the stage of the investments. So like
Mm-hmm.
if you look at like pre-seed, seed, maybe sometimes Series A, it's like you don't have to do any models.
Mm.
But if you look at like Series A and above, which means like companies who are like 50 employees plus, they have numbers on their balance sheets and financial statements. Then that's when you have to like kind of go in and like do a little bit auditing, do a little projections, but it's nothing crazy.
What does a VC intern do day to day versus a typical consulting intern slash associate?
Yeah, I make like a vlog on like day in the life as a VC intern. I think I said four things, which Steve Stan. Test my memory here. I think the first one is like understanding about the market, like deals other firms are investing, what are the headlines, what are the latest technology trends, like what, for example, like what happened to OpenAI, or like where these like ex big tech companies are like leaving and starting companies. Second bucket, it's like looking at deals. Looking at deals, so like you're trying to like find deal flow. So you go on LinkedIn, you message these people and setting up meetings, spend the time meeting them. And the third bucket is like thinking about deals. So like it's like after you have these meetings, you think about like you think about the industry, you think about the product, you think about like the economics and think whether if it makes sense. And if things gets pushed through, like you do all those like memo, you talk with your partner, and you finally invest in the company. And the last bucket is just like special projects. That's a fancy way to say things. Basically, it's like any ad hoc request from the partner, or for example, like some portfolio company needs help with like finding a buyer list because they want to sell their company, or like a founder wants to brainstorm on something, but my partner is too busy, and they send me to do that, which is something I'm grateful for. It's like great opportunities to like work with founders. So that's how I say it. You say consulting too, right? So consultants are um really various day to day. Because you're on a certain type of project. Can be growth, could be cost cutting, could be restructuring, could be go to market. And depending on these scopes, like your work, it's like vastly different. But I say I spent a lot of time on slides, a lot of time on Excel. Um, and you have a lot of meetings with like so-called like stakeholders. So what that really means is that you have meetings with your clients. It could be a manager from the client, it could be a CEO from the client, it could be like um analysts from the client, it could be like the clients of clients. Just trying to understand like how their business work, what kind of inefficiency, what kind of observations can you make. Um, and the Excel part was just to analyze those data points.
Do consultants ever have meetings with bankers? Like, do they interact?
Yeah, that's a funny question. I think um they are types of engagement. They call it due diligence. So like that's when like PE firms will hire consultants to help validate their investment. So for example, like if Wynette wants to buy like a jewelry firm, and you can hire consultants to help do the due diligence on the jewelry company. And there might be some interactions with their brokers. That was an example that I can think of. But in generally, like not as I know.
That makes sense. Like, yeah, there are miscellaneous things, like little things, but not like it's not like, okay, everyone, like let's have multiple meetings, let's work on this project together. It's kind of like when the intersections hit, then yes, but other than that, not really. Now, what does the org structure at a typical VC look like versus a consulting firm? Like, my perception is that VC may be a lot flatter, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's correct. Like I think VC firms are very lean, very small. And consulting firms are really big, but I wouldn't say it's like very like tall. Like, I think consulting firms are more lean than industry, I would say. Because I think a big part about consulting is like being very agile. You're helping them project to project to project. So it the it has to be lean to a certain extent to be able to move so fast. Um, so I wouldn't say it's like really bad, but like I think like it's like compare apple to oranges because VC is just a different level. It's like it's a different kind of like industry. So yeah.
Maybe then a better way to ask that question is as an intern or as an associate, who will you be interacting with daily in a VC versus in a consulting firm?
I say in VC, it's also the best, one of the best parts of VC, which is like you speak directly to the partner, every single day. And you also speak with founders of companies. So and yeah, and there are also some type of events that you would go to meet like other VCs. So I would say these three other categories. And in consulting, you just meet like a much bigger variety of people. But you also have like a longer chain of commands. So like a lot of times partners we have visions or we have ideas that we have to go through your manager to your senior associate, then to your associate. Um, there are also times where like in consulting you interact directly with like the manager of your client. You will be sitting in meetings with the COO of the client. So I think it's I think it's a different dynamic, but I think you both of them gets a lot more exposure than let's say if you work in or I guess an analyst at like an industry job.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like interns or associates like at these two places they have like a wide web. It's like, spreading it all out. And yeah, I can't really see like let's say you're an analyst at Loblaws, for example. I can't see you being able to, all
Okay,
the
for
time you
Loblaw.
have yeah, I can't really see that happening. I really like that you compare everything to industry, because well, that's who you're advising, but also it just puts everything into perspective as well. That's why these careers can be really, really good for someone that is has diverse like ambitions, and it gives them the ability to speak to so many people and have that like wide net so that they can find what they want to do afterwards. Whereas I guess if you work for industry, you are limited sometimes in the exposure that you get. Question number 9: how fast or slow are the deal cycles in VC? Like, you did a summer internship in VC. Did you see like, was money ever like invested in something while you were there?
Yeah, I think there are four deals that got that went through over my summer there. And yeah, like it was just super fast paced. I also think it has to do with like the market condition a lot as well. I think 2022 summer, especially the early part of summer, was like it was good. It was good. It was an understatement. Like I think these were people were raising a lot of money. People were deploying a lot. Um, and deploy means like just putting money out there, investing money. And and towards the later of 2022 summer, I think it was very significant. Like I could feel materially like companies are raising a lot less. Like my partner become a lot more hesitant to invest because of the macroeconomic environment. Um and yeah, like I say, it my sample size of four companies, it can go as fast as like 2 weeks from like first meeting this person to closing the deal to like 3 4 months.
Wow, I never knew it could be that fast. But I guess that's VC, and especially if something's like really hot, there's so many like VCs that are interested. Like, it is kind of it's a battle. So, and when
It
it's
is
good,
it is
it's
a
good.
battle. If you have a great company, you just like walk out there and be like, I'm raising money, and VCs will like get into your inbox and trying to like get the allocation. So for example, like you raising for a jewelry company again. You're raising $1 million for jewelry companies, and people know like, oh, you're like ex Amazon, like you did jewelry before. You're like, I'm really confident in this person. And all these people will come in with like 2, 3, 4 millions of money, and you can only choose 1 million of that. You can't accept all the money. So that's when like the competition kicks in. But I think it was more like a low interest rate environment, and now people are um a lot more hesitant, a lot more cautious about like the timeline and everything like that.
I always like, I guess I always thought that startups would be, I guess, longing and thirsty over VCs. But if you're a really good startup, maybe it's the other way around. Like, VCs are trying to book time with you as a founder. Never thought about it like that, but obviously that happens. It's true, and there's so many like success stories that way.
It's I think startups has a long tail. It's just like there is like a very small amount of people that have never had to worry about fundraising. But I think for most people it's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
I think fundraising, this might not be relevant to careers, but I think like if you're a founder, fundraising should not be your job. Like building product, a building startup, it should be what you should spend time on, not like about fundraising.
Yeah, and I think there's been a lot of cases of recent history in the past few months where you see a founder focus on fundraising, and then the product's actually at best like not functional, but at worst maybe illegal or scammy. So yeah, like founders should be focused on building
We
first
all
and
know what those
foremost.
are.
Yeah, and then the money follows afterwards. So that's such a good point. Okay, question number 10. What excites you about technology and finance?
Interesting. So I think on technology, I think it's a big theme of just like it's kind of like YouTube. It's like you can post something out there and it scales. You can have impact on many people's lives. And they say there's this idea called zero marginal cost, which means like if you put the content out there, if you get like 10 viewers or 10,000 viewers, it doesn't cost extra for you to produce that piece of content. And I think that theme applies to technology as a whole. Um, and I also feel like people in technology, it's are people that I vibe more are more like curious, more like laid back, more conscious about different aspects of life outside of careers. I think that's something that I gravitate towards. And finance, I think it's more like I like finance because like people in finance are like smart and they're like cool to be with. Like I like to have conversations with them. Like even back to my first year of uni, like going to the investment club was like a highlight of the week. It's like looking at these like random businesses, like how they make money, look at these stock pitches, like thinking about like how these people are pitching them. It's like so fascinating. So I like the intellectual aspect of finance, and I like the sort of like the scale of technology, if that makes sense.
So that makes sense why VC, you enjoyed it so much because it really is at the intersection of tech and finance. It's like, and you get like the laid back people, like creative, like founders, and then you also like you're still dealing with money. So looking at models and like questioning like ratios and like where's your revenue coming from, So yeah, I that's why I'm personally also interested in VC. I think it's like kind of a mix of everything good. Okay, question number 11. What would you like to do 10 years from now? Do you see yourself being a founder in the future?
Yeah, 10 years from now. 10 years later, I would be like listening to this podcast and be like, what the hell are you saying? But my current answer is like I I want to create content. I probably wouldn't want to do that full time. But I think I I want to be learning a lot. Um, I don't have this idea that like I really want to become an entrepreneur or like I really want to become like I want to work in like tech. I want to work in this certain company. Like I don't have that mindset. I just feel like I think in 10 years, like I just want to like I still want to be I just want to be creative. I want to be learning. I wanted to work in a field that is adjacent to tech. And and I want to be running like I want to be physically fit and I want to have friends. So that's what comes to my head.
Thanks for that answer. It was, trifold, and it wasn't just about careers. It's about health. It's about friends, and I like. I think the more and more I speak to more like techie people, they have like the wants of like different things other than careers, and I definitely feel myself leaning towards that as well. Yeah. So thank you for providing both professional and personal aspirations the next 10 years. Now, number 12. This is the last question I have for you. What advice would you give to students looking to break into VC and consulting? This is very specific. So, like, maybe you can talk like specifically about those two, but then also like my last question is, what advice do you have for students like yourself that have a variety of interests, that are smart, like qualitative, like quantitative, like meeting different people, and let's say they're soon to graduate, they're graduating in April, like
Oh no,
what do you suggest for them?
don't graduate. I'm kidding. I think the recruit for VC and consulting, I think the tactical theme for consulting, it's really get the mocks in. It's like I think there are times when you're like, I'm just gonna like study. I'm gonna read these books until like I'm like okay, and then I'm gonna get started with mocking. Um, I say just go mocking. If you're interested in consulting, if you're interested in recruiting, just like set a chat, go mock with them, and see how bad you are, and that's how you improve, right? You want to give yourself some pressure, get the reps in, and eventually get good at it. And in VC, it's like there are a lot of times like people will reach out to me and be like, "How do you prep for VC interviews?" And the answer is there's no clean way to do it. It's like you just have to be interested in tech. Like you need to like the best person in tech are usually the people who are like who consume a lot of content around like tech, who are like very up to track, like know like who to follow, know like what kind of content they should consume, know the ins and outs of like certain industries that they could speak on, instead of like cramping last minute researching on this like AI industry and be able to speak like three names or something. So I think it takes time, takes a long time for you to like earn that like acumen in tech and learn that like knowledge. Um, in terms of like advice for students in general when they're about to graduate, I think I think my biggest advice is not take advice too seriously because every kind of advice that you take from people, you have to like recognize like there's some kind of bias. And and a lot of times like when it comes to their first job, um, I think a lot of it comes down to um, a combination of luck in your environment and your effort. And the only thing you can control is your effort. So be sure to try hard to get whatever you wanted to get. But if it doesn't go well, like don't stress too much about it because eventually, like in the grand scheme of time, like your first job doesn't matter. It's more about like how you do in your first job, what you do outside of your job, and how you can like get yourself towards where you want. I'm still in that boat, but that's what I would say.
That's so true. I think like being an ambitious business student that's soon to graduate, you're obsessed with the careers that can give you the best exits so that like you're 2 years here, three, four there, and then you climb, climb, climb. And it's just like,
What's the exit though? What's the best exit? Like, what's
well,
the
yeah,
best?
that's the thing. It's just like, I don't know. Like I think like I definitely was chasing that at one point, but I'm like entering a career that I don't think of it as like, oh, this is the first job. This is gonna set me up for life. Like it's just kind of like it's okay. And like market conditions are true. There's not even a lot of things out there. So, as
Mhm.
long as you have good character, like you work hard and you're happy and you still keep up with like your friends and stuff, like at least
Mhm.
that's my opinion. Like as long as like there's harmony and you feel okay about it, I think that's a good first job. Like it doesn't have to be that McKinsey or that Goldman Sachs job. Like anything can be good. And you see that all the time on LinkedIn. Like you'll see like MDs are really successful people and they started out in like anywhere.
Mm-hmm. And like people on LinkedIn, like I just feel like it's a radical truth. It's just like I don't feel like people on LinkedIn care about anyone. It's
No,
just like sometimes they will engage with you, but like, do you think that person wants to understand or know who I am? Or like, do you think I'm still gonna be talking to this person in 10 years? It's like, no. But you're the one who pulled up with your like mental health. You're the one who pulled up with like your day to day, right? So um I think yeah. I think I'm saying like I've come over it, but like I think I'm that's something I'm still figuring that out.
yeah, we're getting like pretty philosophical here, but just like the last point, yeah, like I think like we think so much about our LinkedIn profile and how it looks, but like to be honest, like if I see like I don't know, like someone from Ivey's going to McKinsey, New York, like I'll give it a like, but I don't remember who they are, what they do, and like at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to live it day in day out. So like it, I guess like this is comes to the topic of chasing prestige and stuff. Like no one actually cares as much as you do. So just your first job, like it's okay. Like wherever you land, it's okay.
Yeah.
Try and have harmony, try and be happy, but like honestly, you're the one living your life. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. And like sometimes like when you're like that ambitious, you would think like everything like when I was just saying is just like copium. But I certainly think like I think it's more about like how you feel about your life and being okay with it. I think that's more important because like you don't get to decide if you get a job, right? And the other thing, which is like I think it's a funny way to say this, it's like I remember like when you make a TikTok about like, oh, like maybe I peak in elementary school, right? And basically I like to think um like you don't want to peak so early. So then if you get like whatever, like McKinsey New York job, like what's better than that after? So I like to think about like you don't want to peak so early. You want to tell yourself that you don't want to peak so early so that you can always push yourself to do something better.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also up to you to define like what's better. Like it's a it's an engagement manager at McKinsey University. I don't think I think when it gets to like a higher level, like people are start going to have disagreements on like what's better, and you have to come up with your definition.
100%. Like the exits, you said, what are the exits, like what's better? And it's like, people have, like, if you go on WSO, you go on Reddit, like people are like, this is better, but like no, like actually what is it for you? And that kind of came back to you saying like in 10 years you want to have many different aspects of your life be going, not just the career. So I love that. I think we'll leave it here for everyone to ponder what's better for them, and it's all unique, and that's perfectly fine. But thank you so much, Alex, for joining me. I've been curious about your career, and I'm sure everyone else also appreciates it. So I'll leave your LinkedIn in the description for them to check out, and your YouTube, because you are creating content as well. I really enjoy your venture capital video. Actually got me really confused about my own career, so thanks for that. But yeah, thank you, everyone. I will see you in the next episode. Bye.